Hello. I'm always
Hey,
sitting.
you
I'm always
guys.
sitting over across all the words.
Yeah. You ready?
Yep. Once we go live. Is our printer ready?
So Instagram, if you
Hang
have
on.
questions as we go.
Hey everyone. I'm Eric. This is my wife Julie. We are the Blended Life.
Hey, you guys.
Tonight's topics.
Supportive spouses.
Yeah.
How to deal with not being able to enforce custody orders. Setting boundaries with a difficult bio parent. And then we have an anonymous ask about jealousy when it comes to how involved grandparents are with the kids.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
yeah.
All right.
That's that.
Well, where are we going to start? How is your social distancing going? I feel like we should have bubbles around us.
We're not 6 feet apart.
I know.
Well, for me, life hasn't changed too much.
If
I'm
anything,
still
just gotten a little
working.
crazier.
Yeah, I feel like even more has gotten added to my plate. I work and then have to deal with, when my kids are with us, have to deal with the homeschooling aspect now that is now put on our plates.
Right.
And that's really hard to navigate. It isn't the content. Like, I'm not actually teaching like my 9-year-old content. It is having her navigate different websites and how to open different programs and how to turn in her work and how to connect to a video chat and all the
sure
things.
All of you understand this. It's like life has changed. My thought on it was like teachers. Well, but you kind of had like a rebuttal for it. I'm like, teachers aren't teaching anymore, so shouldn't we as parents get paid because we are teaching our kids now? Like, we're homeschooling them.
Yeah, but that's not entirely fair. I have a lot of teacher friends, and they are still working from home, right? They're creating curriculum from nothing. This didn't exist, so they're having to set up their Google Classrooms at home, fill it with their own content.
So they're still working just as hard.
Set up video chats with their students.
Right.
They're getting constantly emailed questions. Work's getting turned in every day.
Yeah.
And so teachers are now home with their own kids, having to homeschool and be there for their own kids and teach an entire class.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of flippant when I said that, but my heart goes out to the teachers right now who don't have everyone who's working and has to do homeschooling on top of it right now. It's really, really difficult.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and for everyone and all the working parents who are staying home, especially if you have those blended families that your kids are half with you, half not with you, or with you part of the time and not part of the time. I feel like it complicates things because you can't really get in a groove. You can't get in a rhythm and neither can the kids, of how they're going to work and how their school workflow goes. And there's none of that structure that you always like to talk about.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And then I feel like when everyone gets right into the structure mode, it's either going to become summertime and then they're never going to have to do this again, or they're just going to go back to school and never have to do this again. So it's kind of a weird thing.
Yes. I know my daughter, she's super social, so she hates homeschooling. So that makes it even harder,
Right?
Because she just wants to talk to her friends and see her friends. And this is not for her. I think both of our boys are pretty independent and they're like, whatever. They can get their homework done in like 2 hours. And
Right.
So they're good to go. I don't know. It's a difficult thing to navigate for sure. The other thing about blended families that is, I'm out of the house every day for work during the weekdays still, but I feel for the blended families who have no escape, who are, and then our kids have their own rooms or own areas in the house. So my nephew checked in with me. And Mark, and he was like, how are the kids doing? Have they killed each other yet?
No, they haven't seen each other.
They haven't seen each other. They're all in their own corners doing their own things. And so our blended family is kind of unique like that, I guess. It's a blessing and a curse, as everything is. But for the families who are having difficult step parenting situations and they're not able to escape it, they can't go get a drink or a coffee with their girlfriends.
Right.
And, Zooming's great.
Yes.
I'm going to be doing Zooming with my brunch girls this
My
weekend.
friend just actually invested a lot of stock into Zoom because he's like, yeah, it's a big up and coming thing. And I totally agree. And while you're kicking our iPad around, hi, Cindy, and welcome, Janelle. It's our first time live with us. So
Janelle.
We're very excited to have you.
Yeah. So I'm going to Zoom with my girlfriends this weekend.
Why don't you just take it a step further and Zumba?
We might do a little dance.
Online Zumba?
Yeah. So I belong to this.
Zumba still a thing?
Yes. I belong to there's Zoom Zumba classes, actually.
Wow.
Because a lot of people are having to exercise at home. So like,
I'll be back later. I'm going to go Zoom. Because technically it's a Zoom and a Zumba.
Oh my gosh.
So it's 2 Zooms?
Anyway, so I belong to a group of girls. We go to brunch, 4 times a year, quarterly. And so Sunday's our brunch day. So we've all decided at 10 a.m. on our brunch day, we're going to sit down with like food and drink and just catch up.
Yeah.
But what's no interesting is like you can't even have a quiet space in your house to talk real talk. Like, you kind of got to be careful what you're saying.
Yeah, but we're not going to have kids this weekend, so you can talk however you need to. I mean, I'll be here, but I might leave and just go to the lake or something. Quarantine myself.
No, but like for struggling stepmoms or struggling parents or, it's not easy to be around your kids all the time. It's not easy to be around your stepkids all the time. You need a break, and so it's helpful to be able to have a safe space to share your thoughts and feelings about that, and that's okay. You have to be able to discuss the struggle, but a lot of parents can't even do that right now on Zoom or on the phone.
Sonia
because
wants
little
to know
ears
what
are
Zoom
watching.
is.
So Zoom is you can look it up on Google or whatever internet browser you use, but basically it's like video chat.
It is. That's exactly what it is.
And so you can have as many people. Yeah, so it's through email. You have to sign up through your email and connect through. You can actually connect just by your telephone too.
Right. There'll be different ways. You could probably connect through telephone, email, any type of, like probably even Facebook will let you connect.
think so. I've never done it. This Sunday, honestly, is my first time. You should probably set it up
sooner than later.
I did. I registered today, and I set up a meeting time, and it has its own link. And then I sent that link to everyone. Perfect. And so everyone at 10 a.m. who wants to join in on the video chat will be able to click on that link. And then we'll have our computer screens showing everyone on it. And we'll be able to drink and chat.
And all the kids are using this for class these days. I know my son uses it in the mornings. And does your daughter use it too?
No.
They use a different host?
Yeah, they use it through Google Classroom or something.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I know a lot of families are using it right now for classrooms for their kids.
Yeah, or if you're a blended family and you're deciding to keep your child in the other home, or vice versa, you have the child and they're not able to see their other family, please let them video chat, daily even. Once a day I don't think is unreasonable to be able to sit down, or every other day, and let them just have some good FaceTime. It's better to see faces than just hear voices. You need to see that love in your parents' eyes or whatever, or anger. Discipline your kids. I don't know. Anyway, so social distancing.
Yeah.
I don't like people, so I'm happy to not. I like my friends. I like my chosen tribe, whatever, but I don't love people, so I'm happy not to drive around and be, in it.
Yeah. You just went to the store and there was you went to CVS.
I went to CVS. There was no one in there. I was the only, there was a cashier and another worker.
Yeah.
It's a ghost town, and gloves and masks, and it's really odd to see out there, but I'm happy for a slower life. I don't feel like my life is slow right now.
Not at all.
But I'm happy for a simpler life. I'm happy for the lessons that are going to come out of this.
There's Scotty. I was just talking about you. We were just talking about Zoom the other day.
Yeah.
He invested quite a bit into he feels like it's the way of the future. And I agree with you on this. Like, I think that it's an awesome market. And I think a lot of people, especially in this time, they're going to see a lot of value in something like this. And I think also when it's time for everyone to go back to work, they're going to remember the value in this, and workplaces might simplify quite a bit.
I hope so. Less plane rides to different states, just have a Zoom conference. Zoom's used a lot for business already. I just think, people are getting creative now and trying to figure out how to connect with people. So that's that.
Yeah. So
how's your social distancing going? I didn't ask you.
I mean, I'm kind of socially distant usually, but I'm helping out a lot at church right now, filming all of the services and worships and midweek worships. And so that's kind of like my one time a week where I get to like go hang out with people kind of. But
you're such a rebel.
I'm such a rebel. But we're a small group and we're kind of all in our own areas. We're not like on top of each other hanging out like, so it's not that big of a deal.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Big room to fill.
Yeah. So let's talk about supportive or not supportive spouses. And I'm going to read, these topics, you guys, in case you don't know, I'm sure if you've listened to us before, you're sick of me hearing it or saying it, but we have a support group on Facebook, Blended Life Support Group, that you can join. And so I had asked everyone in that support group for ideas or if they had any topic suggestions or questions that they had for this week's podcast. I got so many. So thank you to everyone
which is awesome.
who reached
thank
out.
you guys. That's way cool.
We can't even cover everything this week.
No, but you know what? We can't cover it all today.
We will, though.
But we had talked about, we can cover some today. If you guys have suggestions and comments or whatever, but there's stuff you guys want to talk about, Julie and I are talking about maybe this weekend or certain weekends doing longer YouTube only, just going live on YouTube and talking with you guys and interacting more on your agenda versus stuff that I feel like a lot of it we're interacting with them and their questions, but we're going to basically turn on the camera with no agenda whatsoever and just interact with you guys and chat with you guys. So if you think that's something you want to get in on, get to our YouTube page if you're not already there, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and we'd love to just connect with you guys and just spend, I don't know, Saturday or Sunday afternoon sometime with you guys and hear what you guys have to say and your thoughts on stuff and inputs on stuff. And I don't know. Yeah. It'll be a fun environment, I think.
It's only social as good as people come to it.
Yeah, that's all right.
All right. Okay, so supportive or not supportive spouses. So I'm just going to read kind of what was talked about and then or what was put out there.
Right.
Okay. So this person says, I literally was doing it all. Just recently decided to stop doing some of the things. With that, we have one child out of 4 that has behavior issues and hates me. This is a stepchild.
Okay.
I'm super patient all day, but at the end of the day, I'm short-tempered. I swear if I hear you have to have more patience with him, I'm going to scream. I never get a thank you or a good job.
Yeah. What do you always say about being a step-parent?
I don't know. What do I always say?
It's a thankless job.
Yes, but
I mean, yeah.
You have to have a supportive spouse.
You totally do. And that's what comes into play, is having that spouse that recognizes you and recognizes not just the big things, but the little things too. So one thing I can say right now that all of us can do listening is just take a minute and think about all that your spouse does, and I'm not talking about, all the big things that they always do, but just the little things that make life easier for you. I mean, as simple as waking up in the morning and packing lunch for the little kids, and getting the kids to school on time. And, there's things that
doing the laundry.
There's so much. There's so much. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. If you guys think about it, like even if you think the least about your spouse, there's something good there. Like, find the good in your spouse always, because even if you guys are butting heads and disagreeing and not getting along with one another, you can always find something good, I feel like, in your spouse.
Yeah. And I think too, and I've always said this, I think that biological parents in the home have this, I mean, they love their kid unconditionally, right? It's just natural.
Right.
It's unconditional. Their poopy diapers don't really bug them. The
What about
throw
mine?
up doesn't bug them. You know, I think that bio parents just have that naturally. And I think that when you get remarried to somebody, whether it's intentional or whether I think there's this hope or expectation that your spouse is also going to love your child unconditionally, be equipped to have that same patience that you have. I have a very different patient level with my son than you have with my son.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? And that's natural. Or what
Yeah.
my point is, I think there's a tremendous amount of unrealistic and kind of unreasonable expectation on step parents to be embraced and embrace the kids the way that the biological parent does. And I think that that's where step parents get taken for granted, or a lot of like frustrations from the bio parents
Yeah.
towards the step
hurt
parents
feelings
lay.
or yeah.
And I just think that there needs to be a little bit more grace, extended to the step parent from the biological parent. And you should never take your spouse for granted, whether they're a step parent or you're a natural family and you share all your kids. I think that's a very dangerous game spouses start to play, is just taking each other for granted.
Right.
And I think that are granted. And I would just tell everyone to be super careful of that. I did write questions down that I thought would be helpful for this.
Okay.
What is the expectation of support? Like, what level of support is expected from a step parent if they adamantly disagree with the way you're parenting your own child?
Well,
Because I also think there's that, right? Like, a biological parent takes a lead in parenting, and they expect the step parent to support the parenting, even if it's bad parenting.
right.
Even bad parenting.
Yeah. They always expect them to be a ride or die. Like, you're gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always agree with me.
And I'm just asking, I'm posing that question, like, is the expectation in your blended family and your marriage that even if there's bad parenting going on by the biological parent, that there is an expectation of support there?
Right.
What do you think about that?
Well, that's kind of a conversation that you need to have with your spouse, obviously, before it gets to that point. But I don't think that there's anything wrong with your spouse not really calling you out, but letting you know if they see you not doing something the way that maybe they necessarily wouldn't do it, or they don't see fit. Because I feel like that's how you grow. That's how you learn, is by opening your eyes to other ways of doing things and seeing things from different points of views, and just having a well-rounded vision on things. So if parenting is one of those things that we need to have our eyes open to, then it's kind of our spouse's place to open our eyes to that.
That's true. But I think that a lot of bio parents, step parents can't get on the same page because they simply don't agree in what's right.
Right.
And in that case, like, I think that step parents it's hard for step parents because bio parents kind of get carte blanche at the end of the day. And we're both step parents, but step parents in general are kind of expected to just like get on board, like, sorry, you don't agree with this, but this is what's happening.
Right.
And that's a really hard place to exist in a family.
Yeah, because now you're living in it as a step parent.
But I think that every blended family deals with this.
Maybe to an extent, although some blended families deal with that better than others.
Sure.
Others, You have to swallow a little bit of sand, as you would say, but I feel like some recognize that or are on the page quicker and just align better, and it doesn't have as much of an issue or problem as your average family or the person who wrote this in.
Yeah. But I think that said person and people who find themselves in that, I think that bio parents who are going to be carte blanche and just do what they're going to do regardless need to understand and be okay with that they're not going to get the support. Like, they might not get berated and nagged about it and fought with about it, and it may not always be an issue, but they're probably not going to be invested, engaged, excited. That's what you mean by support, right? Support is like you are there with them in that moment. And so I think that expectations need to be realistic and not so high in the sky and unrealistic. I think that just sets people up for failure and to feel bad.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Every family's a little different like that, but.
Yeah, my other question was, you need to understand what support looks like. So wives, what support looks like to your husband is probably very different than what support looks like to you. Like what you feel you need to feel supported is probably different than what your husband needs to feel supported. So I think those are conversations you have to have in your marriage too.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. That all comes down again to communication.
Yeah.
Like, you need to communicate what you need. And sometimes you don't know it at the time, but if you recognize it later, come back and be like, look, in this situation, this is what I need from you. And have a good conversation about it. And over time, you're both going to learn from it. You're going to learn communication better, and you're going to learn to listen to one another better, but you're going to learn to support one another better as life goes on.
And you're also going to learn to agree to disagree.
Right.
And I think that's a really important tool in marriage, because you are different people. You're different sexes, maybe. And it's okay sometimes to agree to disagree and to recognize and realize that the other person may not just be supportive of this, but it doesn't have to ruin the family dynamic. It doesn't have to ruin your marriage. It doesn't have to ruin your relationship with your stepkids. You can just be true to who you are and move on and still be present and kind and show up for the family without having to be like gung-ho. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, you don't have to wear T-shirts with your family's faces on them.
Yeah, you can be present and be kind without having to be engaged in a process that you don't agree with.
Yeah.
I guess that's my point.
That maybe that you don't agree with, but I think engaging is something that you always need to do, whether it's the happiest situation or the unhappiest situation. I think engaging with your family only softens that. So if your stepkid doesn't like you, doesn't mean that you disengage and you just blow them off. Like, you
I'm just
still. Sorry. That's what I got out of it. What do you mean?
I'm talking about in regards to being supportive spouse.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
Yeah.
if you're not agreeing with a parenting style or what's being done, and the bio parent has said tough.
Yeah, and they just
don't
have
let
this.
it ruin
No, of course
everything.
not.
But you can also. It's okay. It's okay not to engage in things that you don't agree with.
Of course.
Or
Yeah.
anyway, that. But
Yeah,
yes,
unless-
I mean,
unless
that's
you've-
different than like you're being in a relationship with your stepchild. That's not what we're talking
Right.
about.
But if you, yeah, you're completely correct. If you just are there and just, step back from it because you're not agreeing, unless it gets to a point to where you're like, mom or dad's beating the kid,
Well,
you know what I mean? Then you need to.
abuse isn't okay.
Right.
Definitely
But there's
report that.
lines, but there's also, if it's any type of thing that you're like, this is going to cause issues down the road. And I'm
Yeah.
not even talking like even just physical abuse, mental abuse, there's lots of, and even lighter than abuse. There's things that parents and people can do that are going to affect kids later, that
Like
might not.
health, like hygiene,
All of it.
like mental, what they're putting in their heads. There's totally, which isn't straight out abuse, but like even manipulation
Right.
or what they're allowed to listen to or say or do, it. Yes.
At some point in time, if it's just not going to serve them right down the road, like
Right.
step in,
Yeah.
and not in between them, but step in and talk with your spouse about this.
Yeah, you have a responsibility to your stepchildren to at least voice your concerns. I think that is showing up for your stepkid and caring for your stepkid. But I also know when you have when both bio parents, when the co-parents of that kid unite and agree, that's kind of like sorry, you're out.
How many type of parents are there? There's so many. There's bio parents, grandparents,
Step parents,
parents,
adoptive parents.
There's parents. Parenting's nuts.
It takes a lot.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. So we were asked to talk about enforcing court orders or not being able to, and having a parent who goes out of their way to be difficult to co-parent with and it is at times toxic. And I'm going to keep talking on this because we had a few people write in about this topic.
All right.
So then the next person says, for instance, why must bio dad watch every little thing he does and make sure everything is followed to a T, but bio mom makes her own rules as she goes and then calls bio dad crazy when he gets upset.
Yep.
And last one. So says we have a bio mom who has a court order to only contact bio dad via text or email unless emergency, and only talk about the kids, which I think is great. You should only be talking about the kids.
Yeah, it's co-parenting at that point. If you guys
that
can't
needs
get
to be
along,
in court order, but you're not married anymore. So
Yeah.
what's there left to talk about but the kids? Okay, moving on. But every couple of months she calls and leaves 5-minute emotional voicemails about how she needs an apology for what went wrong in their marriage, which ended 6 years ago.
I don't think she needs an apology. I think she needs therapy.
She has said that she needs him to act like she's someone he cared about and that he's sorry their marriage ended. She cannot find closure and blames her ex after he is remarried and moved on. It's been 6 years. She is called drunk at midnight just to talk and won't even acknowledge me as a stepmom and has never even said hello. When we have to drop off in person instead of just on a school day, she will not get out of the car, stare straight ahead. We've dealt with this too. My husband or I will get out, help the kids out, and say a polite hello that is ignored. Horrible for the kids to see and makes life difficult, but after talking to 2 attorneys, it's really hard to prove contempt or do anything about it. We've never been unkind or gotten drawn into her drama, but her behavior and validity no, I can't say it. Say it. I can't say the word.
I can't see the
Votality. Oh, it's like,
Why don't you spell it for all of us?
Okay, you guys get what I'm
Miss College
saying.
grad, let's do this.
It makes it hard to co-parent and causes friction in our marriage because she is just so crazy. Would love advice on how to handle this.
So
There's a lot going on.
So
here,
first thing
guys.
is, let's start backwards and work our way up to the top. First thing is, don't try to prove anything. Don't try to take her to court unless there's we need to get rid of her as a parent because she is toxic, abusive, unhealthy for the kids because she's hurting them, hitting them, leaving them, anything that the court would see. But
you can't prove in
But
court.
that's what I'm saying. But at the end of the day, she's still the mom. She's still someone who, crazy or not, is the children's parent. And one day your kids are going to realize that their mom is this way. And it's your job to help the kids, not by telling them how the mom is, but help navigate the kids and help them grow up to not be like that by setting a better example, by holding their hands and walking them through a better, healthier, cleaner path, right? Now, mom has a lot of pent-up issues that obviously stem back to their marriage and the way that it ended. And that's something that mom is going to have to get over by herself, because if dad apologizes and gives mom everything she wants, now mom has something else to hang on to, and everything could have been better. And it turns into a bigger sob story that just leads you down this rabbit hole of just toxicness for his current relationship, his current marriage. And that's just not healthy. So mom bio mom needs to get therapy, do whatever she needs to do, but it's not even your job to worry about it. Like, it sucks. It's a pain that all of this is going on and she's calling. And maybe on times that you know that you guys have the kids and mom shouldn't be calling or doing anything, maybe you block her number temporarily just here and there to stop those weekend calls and those drunken weirdness calls.
Like, if the kids are with you, block her call.
Yeah,
Because obviously the only reason to talk would be if there was an emergency with the kids.
And if it's an emergency with her, you guys will find out later. You know the kids are safe and sound, right?
Yeah.
But,
or check your voicemail once a day.
Yeah.
If you know.
Well, I mean, yeah. What a pain in the butt, but that's what divorce is. Divorce is not something that God created to be like just an everyday handout. Like, yeah, this is an awesome thing. Let's everyone go do this.
There's
like,
consequences.
There's
for
totally
everything.
consequences, and we originally weren't even designed for it. You know, we are designed to be in companionship and build marriage and build relationship. So divorce, I mean, it happens, but it's not like, even though it's very common these days, it's not just an awesome thing that should be cut clear, clean, and dry. Now, granted, there are some that are like that, but 99% of us.
That's the exception, not the rule.
Exactly. The other 99% of us, we've had to deal with all this garbage that is hard, and that's just a consequence of it. You know, I mean, it's like parenting. Like, parenting's something that happens every day, but there's consequences. You know.
You know, it's really, really frustrating, and I've seen this in your own court battles.
Right.
And I have friends who are having court battles, and, you know, even allegations of abuse aren't recognized by the court. And so it's really hard to talk to friends who they know their child is being abused in some way in the other home, and they feel powerless. And I don't have that experience, but watching it through others' eyes is heartbreaking. I can't imagine living with that in my own life with my own kids. Sorry.
You a squeaky chair?
So here's the deal. If you feel like your child's being abused and court isn't protecting them, you need to document everything. If there's signs of abuse, you need to take pictures. You need to call CPS. You need to call the cops. You need to talk to your kids.
Document everything.
Document everything. And, you know, when your kids are with you, I would hope everyone's having the conversation, regardless if there's abuse or not. Like, kids need to be told it's not okay to be touched here. It's not okay to be hit or slapped. It's okay not to get it's not okay to be hit, slapped, or be given a bloody nose, or paddled in such a way that is demeaning or aggressive. You need to, without pointing out the other parent, I think you need to teach your kids that they need to respect their body, and that they should have the expectation for other people, not just pointed towards the parents, but, they're going to date, they're going to go play with kids who are weird. They need to be taught to have these expectations of self-respect of their body in all the ways. And you need to model that for kids. Now, you can't control the other parent. So as much as you want to jump through the phone or get out of the car and make a difference, there's not really anything you can say that's going to cause an epiphany in that other person's head to change them.
You don't control the other parent in the other situation too by pushing this abuse thing or pushing, basically, if you're having to grasp to straws to make a court case or get custody, there truly probably isn't something terrible enough there. Now, and I know that sounds like, no, you don't know my situation. Well, I totally get it, because when you are in that custody battle and you can't seem to get along with the other person and no one understands it until you're in it, but you literally just hate this other person. There's no other way to describe it. You're like, they are the most awful person in the world. They're manipulating. They do and say and just portray just the most evil things that you could ever talk about. Like, I totally understand that, but is it bad enough, or is it mostly emotions between the adults? Like, is the kid truly in harm's way? Because there's been times where I've had situations like that years and years ago, and now I look back and I'm like, like, yeah, it probably was more emotions than it actually was anything. I mean, you're always going to have those things there that if they are bad enough that when it's happening or it's happening, you can call 911 and they'll come help you out in this situation. Well, that's one thing. But if you are having to create stuff in order to gain custody, and
that's wrong.
It's a lot of waste of time is kind of what my point is.
Yeah.
And the kids are going to see it from all sides eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So really just let go of the other side if you can.
Yes.
And that's what this bio mom needs to do. She needs to let go. Now, it's not your job to go tell her to let go, but what you do is you let go of what she's doing. You know what? If she is leaving these crazy voice messages and stuff, when you open up your phone, it translates it for you. If you see it's one of these, just delete it. Don't even listen to it.
Don't read. Yeah, read like the first couple sentences.
Glance over. Yeah, and if you're like, this
delete.
Is just one of these things, don't get involved with this and get sucked down that rabbit hole and start talking with your friends about it, because then all of a sudden your emotions are controlling the situation. And by that time that you're reading this and dealing with this, if it's the next day, she's probably sobered up and out having a good old time. And now you're stuck in just
your day's ruined. Your spouse's day is ruined.
And you've got this cloud over, and your kids are in the household, and everyone's mad and everyone's negative, and all of a sudden she's got a foothold in your relationship, and it's nothing but negativity. Just forget about her. Like, do right by the kids, and just.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I feel like everybody thinks the other side is nuts.
We are all nuts.
It is like, I'm sure I get called nuts by my ex and his wife.
Husband and the kids.
I think that, I would say that some things your ex has done has been crazy.
Oh, for sure.
I think that
I've done some things that are crazy.
I think some things my kid's stepmom has done is crazy, and my ex-husband has done is, there are no words. So I feel like we all feel like that about each other. And so what you have to do is just put blinders on and make it very, like, all interactions should be factual and about the kids. Don't take bait. Don't give into emotion. Don't feed emotion. Don't give yourself to these
masturbator.
Yeah, like, don't give a piece of yourself to these people. Don't give any of your emotions. Don't give any of your thoughts beyond, hey, can I pick Sally up from school at 3? Yes, no. That's it. You can't control their crazy. And the second person who chimed in on the subject said, talking about how bio dad or her husband has to follow everything to a T, and then or bio mom gets to make up her own rules.
Right.
I think that's pretty typical.
Yeah.
I think that is in every thing. I guess I'm just saying that not to say that that's not a big deal. Just know that that's very common. And so be grateful that you're married or with somebody who does the right thing. Choose to look at it like that, and you just don't pay attention to her crazy.
Well, a lot of people,
let her be.
I think a lot of people are looking to, especially when it comes to like the court thing, everyone's looking for a winner and a loser. And in divorce and in custody and these daily agreements, everyone is looking for who wins, who loses.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is, no one ever truly wins and no one ever truly loses. Like really, when it comes down to arguing about the kids and the custody agreement and the divorce and the divorce settlement, and no one ever wins.
Yeah.
No one ever completely wins. No one ever completely loses.
That's right. And the truth of the matter is, court orders and mediation and all that only works if you have co-parenting that works.
And lots of money.
Because really the only thing to do if you have somebody who's refusing to follow court order is to keep going back to court. Now that's very costly. It's very emotional. It's time consuming.
And no one usually truly wins.
They make you go to mediation and try to figure, you circle the drain. Yeah. So I think that you have to do the best with what you have. And you pick and choose your battles. I constantly am like, I'm emotional. So at the end of the day, I'm like, am I going to go to court over this and drag my kids into it and make this situation worse? Because in my case, it would make everything worse and it's not worth it. So some battles, I just have to die on those hills so that my kids ultimately aren't drugged through something pretty nasty that it would turn into. I think that you just kind of have to block out the crazy person that you don't like, because there's lots of crazy people in the world that we don't like.
Wait, what'd you just say?
Dude.
Just kidding. Hey, Cindy said she wants to hang out with us this weekend. We go live.
All right. So not being able to enforce court orders, that is the reality of it.
Yeah.
Cops don't like to get involved in civil matters, right? You call the cops out. They say you're going to have to go to court over this.
Yeah, don't waste their time over it unless it is a true
Abuse,
emergency.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, what are your options? Like, what can you do to hold someone's feet to the fire? You don't have power in somebody else's home, not even over your own kids. And I think that is so fucking hard.
Wow, there it is, boys and girls.
But that deserved the F-bomb.
Literally just thinking, like, wow, we've almost made it through a whole episode.
We have more to go. We're only at topic 2 of 4.
Oh, my gosh.
So I just think that, there's some things that you're not going to be able to. And there's sometimes you just have to understand that. And you can't keep banging your head against that wall. You kind of just have to live it day by day. Be better, do better. Be grateful that you're with somebody who is excellent. And be grateful you're not with your ex anymore. Hopefully you married up or, relationshiped up. If you didn't, I'm sorry. That sucks for you. Moving on.
Why'd you look at me?
Okay. Setting boundaries when dealing with a difficult bio parent. And so more specifically, and I'm glad that they asked for this, because obviously setting boundaries with the difficult bio parent, we've talked about that a lot, but like, why is that important? How do you do it? And the goal of doing so. So why is setting boundaries when dealing with a difficult ex important? Like,
so there's
why?
expectations. Like, everyone knows, like when you go to play a game, you know what the rules are. Those are your boundaries, basically knowing what's okay, what's not okay. And that way you don't catch someone off guard when, you shut down a conversation because it's not on topic or it's not appropriate, for the topic. If you have those boundaries set in place, it's a lot easier to co-parent and have understanding, and everyone understands the rules. And another thing is when you are setting boundaries and these rules, expect for the other person to set boundaries and rules too on their own terms. So if you're setting boundaries and rules, you can't be offended when the other person's setting boundaries and rules.
Yeah. And I think that the main purpose, like the why for me, would just be it protects you and it protects your kids. You know, it protects you from being baited and sucked into something that is going to be distraughting, you know? And I think it protects your kids from seeing or having to deal with like an upset parent or a distraught parent, or taking your anger out and misplacing it on your kids about their father or mother. And I think it just protects you and your kids, and I think that is the biggest why you need to set boundaries for the other bio parent, whether they're difficult or not. You should do that.
Yeah.
How do you set boundaries? Well, you kind of do it as you go along.
And communication. It's really like you don't want to communicate with people anymore, these people anymore, but part of boundaries and getting results is communication. Now, it doesn't mean that you need to sit there and have an hour-long conversation of what these boundaries are going to look like. But as you cross bridges, draw out those boundaries. Be like, look, I'm okay with this, but I'm not okay with this. And talk about them as you go. And just because you set a boundary and it's in your mind, if you don't communicate it to the other person, they're not going to know that this boundary's there. So if you have a boundary or an expectation, communicate that.
And don't be emotional when you communicate it. Be pretty cut and dry, be pretty to the point. It doesn't need a long backstory of why you feel this way or what you're going to do if you don't get what you're asking for, right? Like, I would just put it out there and let it ride and stick to it. We get too wordy. We get too like, well, you hurt me and I'm not going to take this anymore. And I'm so sick of you calling me names and I'm so sick, or we're like, if you call me that one more time or you come over to my house unannounced, I'm going to call the cops. Like, that is not a way to set boundaries. Setting boundaries, I had to set one tonight. And it was basically, I told my ex, I said, I am not okay with our son graduating a year early. Period. I didn't even tell him why. I didn't tell him that I thought he was wrong. I just saying, I'm letting you know I'm not okay with that.
Right.
And I think that's all you need to do. It's perfectly reasonable to say, I will not be talked to that way. Period. You don't need to set a boundary and then set it on fire.
Well, and let everyone, if you have a boundary like that is reasonable, which something like that's reasonable, you don't need to sit there and debate the whole thing.
No.
At all.
No, you're the parent. You can have boundaries.
Yeah.
And they should only be about your kids or how you're being treated.
Yeah.
Like a boundary might be like, hey, I'm not okay with you walking into my front door anymore.
Right.
Maybe that was okay once when we were newly divorced and before we had moved on, but now if you're with somebody and you're growing a family and, it's like, hey.
Or you're not. You're
it's
just
no longer
appropriate
for you to walk in the house. You need to knock.
Yeah.
Period.
And put your pants on next time.
We don't need to go into why, like, I might be upstairs humping my new or giving him a blowjob. Like,
wow.
You don't need to explain why you don't want your ex walking in your house. I'm just saying.
Just saying. She's always just saying.
So that is how I set boundaries, and
hey, Scotty.
This chair is driving me crazy. Oh my God. How do you set boundaries kind of the same way? You just put expectations out there?
Yeah. Or I think that we have both set boundaries little by little by little, by letting go. And we both kind of do it by setting tones, like. So
you guys don't just come out and say things. You guys more like tiptoe?
If there are things that need to be said, we do. Yeah, but I think we've both learned that we just don't give these long-winded things anymore. We don't have these big, long conversations and go into our feelings about things. And that was quite a while ago. And now it's made it to where if we do need to talk about a situation, it doesn't have to look like just totally black and white and people that hate each other trying to communicate. We can have a very simple, civil conversation. You can laugh at stuff, and
lots of emojis.
and it doesn't. No, usually the emojis, if you see that like on my text with my ex is with my son using her phone. You know what I mean? It's not like we're sending each other like eggplants or hearts or kissy faces or something like that would come from a kid. Like, you know what I mean? But it can be a simple conversation without, taking it so much further that you're like, okay, I'm going to end this conversation now. I'll talk to you later. It can just be quick, back and forth, a couple things like, about the kids, and then it's done. It doesn't need like some intro, some beginning, and some ending to it. It can be a quick, easy, conversation, and you're not like, man, they were so abrasive or they were so dry and, so mean about that. It's just like, it is what it is. You get the communication done and it's over,
So you guys just create boundaries that way.
Yeah. I mean, well, that boundary I think has been created for a long time now, but communicating just small little things over time, I think set the boundaries to get it to where we can just co-parent now. It's just easy.
Nice. Okay. Well, the goal of setting boundaries with a difficult bio parent is kind of the same as why, but I think a step further is just peace, right? Like the goal of creating boundaries is so you can have a path of the most peaceful communication line as possible. I think that is the goal. Like nobody wants nobody wants to live. Well, that's not true. Some people feed off negativity and drama, but
Right.
I think, and so those people probably don't love boundaries. The people who feed off the negativity and drama and really enjoy that and enjoy creating it, living in it, not your boundary people. And I'm sorry if you're married to someone like, or were married to someone like that, or married to someone like that who you have to live with their co-parenting nightmare every day of your life.
Right. Yeah, that could get exhausting.
So I think the goal of setting boundaries is just to have as unemotional, level, peaceful communication you can have.
Right.
That would be my what is same.
I totally agree.
All right. And we're gonna close out with, so I don't even want to read this because I think that the other party will know even if I read it. So I'm just going to get to the point of it.
Do both parties listen?
Both parties are involved in some way.
Okay.
So I just don't want to cause any issues.
Okay.
So basically the upshot, she wrote me, or he, now I don't even know if it's a boy or a girl.
It's a shim.
It's a shim. Wrote me asking for anonymity. So basically, this person has kids, and this person has been a single parent before getting remarried.
Okay.
And so this person, I'm not even going to say if it's a boy or girl. So this person has always had their, we'll say dad. This person's always had their dad.
So it's a mom.
Okay, the mom. So this person's mom has always helped out with the kids.
Okay.
It's just because single parent, like always been in the kids' lives, stepping in and stepping up. And now with that, we're in this era that we're in with kids being home. Yeah. And the homeschooling and this person having to work, the mom, the grandparent is stepping up in a big way for her or his kids.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Are you with me?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then the spouse, who also has kids, is jealous of how much this grandparent is helping
his wife or
her husband.
Yeah.
Yes. The one set of children in the home.
But
now, it's been offered.
But not helping the other set?
Well, it's natural, right, for grandparents just to jump in with their own grandchildren. The offer has been extended to help the other set of kids.
Okay.
But pride has gotten in the way to where that's been declined.
Oh, well, that's on you then.
Help has been declined, but there's still that like jealousy there that this grandparent
You know
is
what?
really helping
If grandma
out.
and grandpa want to come in and they want to help the household, that's great. Now, if grandma and grandpa come in and they only want to help one set of kids or one kid, that's where, as parents, you kind of draw that line and be like, look, we're a family. We're trying to get through this together, not just one or two of us get through this. Now, grandparents came in and mom or dad, whoever sees need for help and accepts the help, and this was extended to the other parent and the other children as well, like that's very nice. Now, if pride's getting in the way of that, well, that's kind of on you.
Right. Well, and I think it's like the pride, and then this person says that their spouse is mad and frustrated at me that I have help and they don't.
Well, it was offered to them too, though, right? So you can't be mad at something. That's like you getting a piece of cake, and they offered me one, but I said no, and then I'm mad at you for eating your piece of cake.
This happens a lot.
Yeah, but you know what I mean?
It doesn't logically make sense, but I think emotions aren't logical, right?
Right.
So I'm sure this other parent's feeling, I think it's displaced anger.
So maybe,
not jealousy.
So here's what needs to happen.
I think that they're just tired.
So what needs to happen then is maybe the other spouse that declined the help, maybe they need to allow the help now. And maybe the other parent, if that's the one listening, needs to revisit that, talk to their parents and be like, are you still willing to help, little Freddie Jr.? And if they are, then be like, okay, I'm going to talk to Big Freddie Sr. and
Big Freddie.
Yeah. And see if this is okay, because now maybe things have gotten tougher. Maybe Big Freddie thought he was going to make it through this all right, and he was going to, be the husband and the father that took care of everything. And he's just realizing, like, I do need help. Like, it's not going the way that I'm planning, and I do need help now. So now if his wife, Miss Jane Doe, decides or is listening to this, maybe she talks to Big Freddie Sr. and says, hey, listen, the offer's still on the table. I know that we're struggling with this. I know that, little Freddie Jr. could have, could really use this, because little Billy is getting this and it's working out well.
I thought it was little Freddie.
No, little Freddie is Big Freddie's son.
I'm so confused right now.
That's how you started the story, so I'm just keeping up the...
Okay.
You know what I mean? So the mom, Miss Jane, needs to talk to Big Freddie and be like, hey, the offer still stands. Are you okay with this? Because I think that there's a lot of issues between me eating cake and you not having any, and I know you would like some cake, and Grandma and Grandpa still want to give you some cake.
Yeah.
For you and little Freddie Jr.
Yeah. I think that that's a conversation that needs to be had, but I think that also it's a symptom of a different problem. I think it's misplaced, like this jealousy or this frustration. I don't even think it's necessarily that the grandparent has stepped in for these kids, for her own biological grandkids. I think that either there's an expectation that the spouse has that it's all handled in home, regardless of how tough times get. It's either that there's something else going on here, and I think that that's where the conversation needs to start. Like, is your expectation really that this all happens in our home and we deal with our kids without any outside help?
Yeah, and we don't want to take the easy way out.
And if that's then that's a conversation, and that might be your carte blanche thing like we said at the top of the show. Bio parents have carte blanche, and so if you feel like it's in your kid's best interest because you're working full time and you need help homeschooling and you're fucking going crazy.
Oh my gosh, there she goes again, ladies and gentlemen.
I think that there has to be some grace extended there, and you do have carte blanche, unfortunately, and this is...
But have that conversation.
And also I think that this the parent who's getting help needs to
That's-
acknowledge
That's Mary.
what?
Sorry, yeah, that's Mary.
Jane.
Mary Jane Doe.
So Jane. I think
Jane's her
Jane
middle name.
needs to acknowledge Freddie, Big Daddy,
Yeah, Big Freddy.
Big Freddie Daddy.
Yes.
I think Jane needs to acknowledge and really just acknowledge that this is really hard for whatever reason. Like, I see that you're frustrated. I see that you're upset. I don't know if it's jealousy,
And
but
don't
I
take
want to
Don't
acknowledge.
take offense to it. Oh, we lost Instagram. Bye, you guys.
Yeah.
Peace.
But I think that it's important to, if your spouse is having strong feelings about something, I think that you need to acknowledge the feelings before you can move on from them. Because I think that feelings create walls, and before you can move on in a situation, I think that whether they're right, feelings aren't right or wrong, they're just feelings. And I think that somebody just wants to be seen and heard. So if you can acknowledge your spouse's feelings and they feel like, wow, you see me, then you can move on from that.
Right. And like
so I'd also try that too.
well, and like you had said, they there's probably underlying stuff there, so just talk about it.
Yeah. And then, be consistent and offer and, say, well, anytime, grandpa, grandma are willing to
But
help.
also
So,
listen out to Big Freddy, Daddy, whatever you call him. Listen to him and see what his reasoning is that, or does he truly just not care? Which doesn't sound like that's the case, but maybe he's like, you know what, like it's fine that
Yeah.
little Freddy's not getting this treatment, but little Billy is, and that's just okay.
well, and pride, and also, I mean, if it's just if it's a pride thing, that's dumb, and then just steamroll that shit. Because pride is a nasty thing, and it causes a lot of problems. And so if it's just, this person's being prideful and his or her kids are going to suffer from that, then that's his cross to bear, and you really can't. You got too much going on, right? You got work, you got your kids, you got homeschool, you got grocery shopping with gloves and masks and sanitizing everything, and
In middle of ghost towns.
yeah. So, and I think that right now is an edgy time for everyone. So that's kind of what we have to say on that. If you need more, if we did not give you what you were looking for, you can always continue to write, and we can continue writing back and forth to you.
And like we talked about at the beginning of this episode, let's do something live this weekend. And if you guys have topics ahead of time, you're like, hey, I'm going to call in, or not call in, I'm going to write in, and I want to talk about this. Let us know ahead of time, and we can get prepared, and that will be some of our first topics. And then as people chime in, we will pick up topics and continue on conversations.
Yeah.
We'll be silly. We'll have fun. Julie will probably cuss a lot. And I don't know. Are we wearing pajamas?
I don't know. Where are we doing this?
I don't know where we're doing this.
And
Write in. Let us know where we're going to film this from.
oh gosh, our swing.
What? Oh,
We own a swing.
Oh, you own a swing. It's never been out of the box
Yeah. But we own a swing
from birth.
from birth.
It was, what was it? It was a
Bachelorette party
bachelorette
thing.
party present.
We also, you guys, are doing Instagram live stuff more and more. So if you don't if you haven't joined us on Instagram yet, you can find us. It's blended_life. Join us on Instagram. The kids are going to be jumping on Instagram live here and there, doing different things.
Yeah.
And then we're also been walking in the afternoons sometimes. So we walk with you guys and we talk about whatever. So join us on Instagram live, connect with us on Facebook, all the different ways. Join our support group on Facebook if you guys want. It's, just a community of people like us who don't know what the shit they're doing.
Yeah.
So thank you guys.
Yeah, you guys. Thank you so much. Give us that thumbs up, that like. Leave reviews if you guys don't mind. Reviews help
Good
us.
reviews.
Yeah, good reviews. Not this weird.
Don't be like Julie's a sailor.
Yeah.
We already
all
know
that.
this.
Yeah. But we appreciate you guys, and we look forward to hanging out with you this weekend.
We should have given a time and a date.
No, let's be sporadic. If you guys have a time and a date for us, if Saturday or Sunday works better and kind of what your schedule's looking like, let us know. We'll try to plan around it.
Maybe we'll be in bed with you guys.
Oh my gosh, we might. I don't know how we're going to do this. I got to have a really long cord.
Oh, you have a long cord, baby.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you this weekend.